For a storm to create so much chaos that 10 train cars went off their tracks in the middle of a busy day in Ohio, this was a storm that needed to be investigated further. Hi, I'm Chris May, writer, producer, and host of This Day in Weather History, a podcast from the Weather Network in Canada, and this month, sponsored by Tourism Ireland. The world's longest coastal touring route is waiting for you. It's time to press the green button. Plan your trip to Ireland today. It was around 1 p.m. on a normally slow, innocuous Tuesday when Lorain County, Ohio was beat upon with snow and ice in the midst of a winter storm that slammed this day in weather history. First off, to put a lot of minds at ease, Fire Chief Jim Willem said no hazardous materials were spilled in this disaster, but there was a big mess. 5 of the cars spilled grain onto the tracks, so it was quickly apparent that there was no serious risk of an explosion on the tracks, thank goodness. But the train's spillage was not the biggest sigh of relief. You see, the crashed train cars narrowly but missed the main electrical feed that provides power to Amherst's 12,000 residents. Uh-oh. That's right, this speeding out of control train scared everyone senseless, but luckily narrowly missed sending everyone into the cold and pitch dark by only about 50 feet. How bad could this have been? Bad, but in a controlled way. Follow my logic. The Lorain County Emergency Management Agency had always been prepared with an emergency response plan in place for just such a disaster. There are generators and shelters to keep people warm, but here's the next glitch. Sheltering a mass population is normally the protocol in events like this, unless you are in the throes of an equally out of control viral outbreak like COVID-19, where gathering is the exact opposite of a good idea now. Thankfully, there were no injuries reported to the crew on the train, and it was fairly evident from the start that the wintry conditions were the most likely probable contributor to the derailment. You're listening to This Day in Weather History, now in its second year from the Weather Network in Canada. But all this month, remember, we're being sponsored by Tourism Ireland. I had a chance to go there, spend a week, and had a time that absolutely and totally exceeded all expectations. The best part is Ireland is open and ready to welcome you. Press the green button now to experience epic and open landscapes. Just to dovetail from that if I can, I'd like to remind you where you can catch this podcast if you might be picking this up off our site or from within a story. You can look up or ask for This Day in Weather History, wherever you normally listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Alexa, and now every day on yahoo.ca. So, and I think we all know what happens here by now, seeing as how this is around the 550th episode of this podcast. This is where we have to ask ourselves, what happened? This was the first winter storm of the season for the state, and it was ugly. The opening act was rain, but the headliner was snow. Headline acts get the longest time on stage, and the snow hit on a Monday that lasted into Tuesday, and that obviously brought with it widespread problems. Northern Ohio took the brunt of it. The traditionally recognized snow belt areas near Lake Erie endured the heaviest and longest lasting snow, with accumulations exceeding 30 centimeters. That is over a foot of snow. From the reports that came in, let's now take a look at the most impressive snowfall accumulations, because these numbers are likely to shock and amaze. So the snow started on a Monday and went on for a whole day. And remember, this was the first snow of the season. Right, having said all that, take a moment to absorb in these totals. Paynesville, 22.5 inches. That equates to 57 centimeters, also known as 2 feet of snow. Edinburgh, 20 inches or 51 centimeters. Chesterland, 19 inches. That's 48 centimeters. Shaker Heights took 17 inches straight on the nose. That's 43 centimeters. Broadview Heights saw 35 centimeters, so did Orwell and Chardon. All over a foot. Repairing the tracks and ties would take days, as the snow, as I just exemplified, was so deep it first had to be cleared so that removal and repairs could be conducted safely. We have covered winter storms in Ohio before, and this will certainly not be the last to have such an impact on human life that it is remembered for when it happened on this day in weather history. Tomorrow is December the 2nd, and we are closing our series on Grey Cups affected by weather. The month of November in Canada is when their football champions are crowned, and a championship trophy that is over 110 years old is awarded. Tomorrow came to be known as the Fog Bowl. Tell you what, let's just gather again tomorrow on this day in weather history with me, your host, Chris May, and proudly sponsored by Tourism Ireland. Ireland is ready when you are. Plan your trip today. Press the green button now.